Tamra Judge explains fallout with fired RHOC star Alexis Bellino. Season 18 of The Real Housewives of Orange County ended weeks ago, but the drama continues. First, we learned that Alexis Bellino was fired after her dramatic return to the show, and Bravo fans popped their champagnes and celebrated the good news. However, that's not the only interesting development happening among the cast. Despite their tight friendship last season, the relationship between Alexis and Tamra Judge has taken a turn for the worse. Tamra explained their fallout during an episode of her podcast and affirmed that she's been a good friend to the 47-year-old. No one understood how the two even became friends after their years-long rivalry, with Tamra dubbing her Jesus Jugs during a heated altercation at the Season 7 reunion. Viewers believed that Tamra joined forces with the blonde beauty to take down Shannon Beater, but did she jump ship when that plan backfired? RAOC's Tamra Judge talks about her fallout with Alexis Bellino. Tamra and her 2Ts in a pod co-host, Teddy Mellencamp, discussed Alexis' firing on an episode of their podcast. The RAOC star explained how and why things went left between herself, Alexis, and Heather Dubrow. Tamra and Heather were Team Alexis all season, but the duo blindsided her in the episode after the reunion when they visited Shannon's home to spill some tea about John Jansen. She was very upset about that, said Tamra, sharing that she spoke to Alexis on the phone after the episode aired. I said, "Listen, we were strictly told not to tell you." As for why Alexis was kept in the dark about the scene where the duo met with Shannon, well, that's obvious. Johnny J and Alexis seem to have the press on speed dial. There would have been a big chance that they would have went to the press and got ahead of it, reasoned Tamra. Alexis questioned if her friendship with Tamra was real. During Alexis' interview with Carlos King, she shared that she was friends with Jennifer Padranti and Katie Janela. She also claimed to be working on rebuilding a friendship with Heather and Tamra after their betrayal. However, Tamra was already looking at Alexis sideways after a visit with her before the final episode aired. I went to her house to see how she was doing. We hung out for a little bit, and for some strange reason she goes, "Are you my friend or my TV friend?" shared the RHOC star. Tamra said she told the mom of three she had already proven that by standing by her side, despite the brutal backlash from viewers. I actually threw my own self under the bus and got ran over this season because I was friends with her, exclaimed Tamra. Tamra Judge adjusted her microphone, took a sip of water, and leaned forward in her chair. Her podcast, aptly named Tea with Tamra, was quickly becoming a must-listen for Bravo fans, particularly those invested in the intricacies of The Real Housewives of Orange County. Today, however, promised to be a blockbuster episode. The topic? The fallout with Alexis Bellino, the once glamorous, Jesus-loving cast member who left the show years ago, but whose name still carried weight among the Bravo faithful. So let's get into it, Tamra began, her voice carrying that familiar mix of candor and sass that endeared her to viewers. You guys have been asking nonstop about what went down between me and Alexis, and honestly, it's time to spill the tea. She paused for effect, a seasoned veteran in the art of drama, before launching into the story. Alexis and I were never besties. Let's be clear about that, Tamra started. But we had a working relationship on the show. She was all about living the blessed life and putting God first, and I respected that. At least I did until it started feeling like a performance. Tamra shifted in her seat, her eyes narrowing slightly as she recounted the early days of their tension. We all know how Alexis loved to talk about her perfect life. Perfect husband, perfect kids, perfect everything. And don't get me wrong, it's great to be grateful for what you have. But there's a difference between being grateful and being fake. And Alexis, well, she crossed that line more times than I can count. She took another sip of water, as if bracing herself for the next part. Things really started to go south during Heather Dubrow's infamous fancy pants party. Remember that? Alexis showed up in that sparkly dress, and from the moment she walked in, it was all about her. She didn't just steal the spotlight, she commandeered it. She kept talking about how God blessed her with this lifestyle, and I lost it. Tamra let out a sharp laugh, shaking her head at the memory. I called her out on her pretentious attitude, and that was the beginning of the end. She didn't take kindly to my criticism, which, let's be honest, was probably fair. But instead of having an honest conversation about it, she ran to Jim, her then husband, and he started sending me these passive-aggressive text messages. Like, who does that? The podcast chat box lit up with comments from fans. Many were eager to hear more about Jim's involvement, a subject that had always been shrouded in mystery. Oh, Jim was a piece of work, Tamra continued, rolling her eyes. He accused me of trying to destroy their family, which is hilarious considering how that marriage ended up. But anyway, Alexis and I stopped speaking after that. We still had to film together, of course, but the tension was unbearable. Every scene felt like a battle. Tamra leaned back, her tone shifting slightly as she reflected on what came next. I thought things might cool off after she left the show, but nope. A few years later, she showed up at one of my gym events, acting like we were old friends. It was bizarre. She even posted a photo of us together on Instagram with some Bible verse about forgiveness. And you know me, I'm all for letting bygones be bygones, but that felt calculated. The comments poured in, fans asking if Tamra believed Alexis' post was a publicity stunt. Look, I'm not saying she was trying to stay relevant, Tamra said, raising her eyebrows. But it's no secret that she's been trying to build her brand since leaving the show. And hey, more power to her. But don't use me as a stepping stone to get there. She took a deep breath, her tone softening as she addressed her listeners directly. Here's the thing about Alexis. She's not a bad person. I'll give her that. But she's complicated. She's someone who wants so badly to be liked, to be seen as this perfect woman, that she loses sight of what's real. And that's sad, you know? Because underneath all the Jesus jokes and the designer handbags, I think there's a good heart in there somewhere. For a moment, Tamra's voice was tinged with genuine regret. Maybe I was too hard on her. Maybe I should have given her more grace. But at the same time, she's got to own her part in all of this too. Relationships are a two-way street. The podcast producer chimed in through Tamra's earpiece, reminding her to wrap up the segment. But Tamra wasn't done yet. One last thing, she said, leaning forward again. I know Alexis has been through a lot since leaving the show. Her divorce, trying to rebuild her life, all of it. And I do wish her the best. I really do. But if she ever wants to have a real conversation, she knows where to find me. Tamra ended the episode with her signature sign-off, thanking her listeners for tuning in and promising even more juicy stories in the episodes to come. But as she removed her headphones and leaned back in her chair, she couldn't help but wonder if Alexis was listening. And if she was, what would she think? Outside the podcast studio, Tamra's phone buzzed with notifications. Fans were already dissecting her every word, speculating about whether Alexis might respond. Tamra smirked, knowing full well that this chapter of the RHOC saga might not be over just yet.